No stress. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, LinkedIn. Thank you for joining us today. Welcome to HubSpot Setup Secrets, What Pros Do First. I'm Casey, and this series is all about answering one deceptively tricky question. What do you actually do when you first get into a new HubSpot portal? I've asked a handful of HubSpot pros to come share their real life approaches because no two admins do it exactly the same, and I'm here to learn right alongside of you. This series is part of something bigger I'm working on. I'm putting together a program called 30 Days of HubSpot, where I'll walk through all the core tools, tips, and tricks based on what people really need to know and to use every day in the platform. So these conversations are going to help me shape the roadmap, and I hope they help you too. Today, I have my friend Amanda Neel. She is in the 30-day program in the Slack community. And she is marketing, part of the marketing operations department at Level Agency. Fun fact, I tell people whenever I introduce them to Amanda that she took my job, which she did.
We did. And we're still friends.
And we're still friends.
It'll be fun.
When I left the agency to start freelancing full time, Amanda kind of stepped in, and so I've had an opportunity to work very cordially with Amanda ever since then, on and off. And I'm glad I couldn't pick a better replacement for myself. And if I had to replace myself in my current business, which is only me, I would still pick you, Amanda.
Yeah. That means a lot.
So do you want to, I told you that I didn't tell you this. Do you want to give a little bit of background on you, who you are, what your background is, how long you've been in HubSpot, things like that?
Yeah.
Words like that.
Yeah, of course. So I have been in marketing ops for, let's see, what year is it? 2025. 7.5 years is when I got my start. I've been in the HubSpot universe for about 3 years now. It's been a wild ride, fun ride. I have a digital marketing background of more than a decade. With some time off in there to raise a kid and all that good jazz. And so I'm really glad when I came back into the workforce, I pivoted to marketing ops. I got my start in email marketing in Salesforce Marketing Cloud and just kind of fell in love with all the puzzles and the breaking things down and things like that.
Yeah, Amanda is really great with like email and deliverability stuff. Whenever I get overwhelmed with email deliverability, I'm like, hey, Amanda, what are these letters? TK. TK, I don't know what these letters are.
SPF and not sunscreen.
Yeah. I am very pale. What does this SPF mean? It's different. But today I have invited you to kind of chat about HubSpot portals. Obviously, you work at a HubSpot partner agency, so you see a lot of portals. And I've been asking my friends and anyone who is willing to talk to me, what do you first do when you're in a new HubSpot portal? Everybody gives a different answer. Why is this such a challenging question to answer? Why is there not a checklist?
Yes. Well, I will give the answer that I feel is like the default in marketing ops. We always dread giving it, but it really is our default is like, it depends. That's what I always say. And I know people are waiting for me to say it at this point. Like, it depends, but it really does depend. Especially working at an agency, I am in probably 3 to 4 different portals a day, regularly. And then sometimes, like last night, I got a surprise. I needed to hop into one. So the reason it depends is because every setup is different. Every client is different. I have EDU clients. I have tech clients. I have health tech clients. I have property clients. So it really depends on what they're using HubSpot for. Is it their CRM and their marketing automation platform? Is it just their marketing automation platform and they're using Salesforce or another CRM? So it really depends on where HubSpot fits into their overall marketing tech stack. That's what makes it the hardest, because you have to understand where it fits in, and how is it being used to its potential? Is there work to be done? Has it changed hands? I had a client last year, I believe. They're no fault of their own. They just had a lot of employee turnover that happened at the same time. So a lot of that historical knowledge was gone within
Mhm.
a couple of weeks, when we were getting our feet wet
Mhm.
in their HubSpot portal. So all of a sudden, that knowledge is gone. You have to like kind of dig in and figure it out. And in that perfect scenario, I would have come in and had that transition period and started. But in this case, it's like, okay, well, what are the most critical things that we're working on? And like, I should probably start there. In this case, it was lead
Mhm.
scoring. The example I'm thinking about, it was lead scoring. So that's kind of where I had to start and dig in. So it was very different than another one where I took over to do just strictly helping with their email marketing, talking about getting my roots in marketing ops and email
Mhm.
marketing. So if I'm just there for that and they have an internal team or they don't need that really in-depth stuff because I've already got support for it, then I would obviously start in their marketing email spot and HubSpot.
Yeah, I was just talking. I talked to my friend Nana this morning, and I was telling her, like, I think one of the things that's also hard about this question, is like everyone in marketing ops has, or sales ops, rev ops, whatever, wherever, however you identify, um, we all have trauma, and like my trauma is actually the email deliverability piece, like making sure your email domain's authenticated.
Mhm.
And I think mainly that's actually because it can be hard. It cannot be always in my hands. It cannot always be in my point of contact's hands. But like getting the SPF and everything connected and authenticated. But I think one downside of that being my trauma is that sometimes that's not important. Like if um, if they're not even using email in HubSpot, then they don't they don't need that authenticated. That certainly doesn't have to be the first thing I do.
Exactly.
Um,
Or if they like have started it and it's not fully baked out,
mhm,
in that case, I probably wouldn't focus there. I'd probably be like, okay, if that's future state,
mhm,
I've brought it up to clients like, I love where you're going. I honestly have not even thought that far ahead though. um, because it's like, yeah, they need to have those things authenticated, but it may not be as high of a priority if they're not regularly sending. And speaking of
mhm,
deliverability, that's a big thing that I think I've had to educate clients on, is that it's great that you're sending emails, but if you're not consistent, that can hurt your deliverability. And it's kind of this fine like art, and it's an art and a science. I think marketing ops in general is an art and a science. Is that you can send emails, that's good, and if your domains are
we love
authenticated,
it.
better love that. But you'd be surprised if you're sending an email this month and then you don't again send one until July. That's the consistency is key, right?
Mhm,
So getting, having to like educate that, like, okay, this is good. You're done, authenticated, first step done. Let's try to figure out how we can scale this. It doesn't have to be every week, it doesn't even have to
mhm,
be bi-weekly. Let's start monthly and grow from there. So in that case, then marketing email, like you said, may not be something that we have to revisit with our trauma. For me, my trauma is data hygiene. Especially when I go into, if someone is wanting to scale their email or do more email, like, great, let's see what you've got. Let's see the emails that have gone out. Let's look at the templates. I found templates that don't reflect their current branding. So
mhm,
a lot of what I find in HubSpot is like a set it and forget it. And some things like,
mhm,
setting unsubscribes and hard bounces to non-marketing contacts, that's a set it and forget it. Lead scoring, not set it and forget it. Emails,
mhm,
not set it and forget it.
mhm,
Um, and then typically from there, I may look at a sampling of contacts. And then I may see in their name, it's just their email address. So we don't even
mhm,
have first names, last names here that we can personalize just with
mhm,
basic personalization. And that's a cue to me that we probably don't have those deeper data points where we can do like the hyper personalization. Because at this point, that's where it's moving, like rev ops, marketing ops, data ops. we're beyond like, hello, Amanda, hello, Casey, like, here's our plan, like, and you were a travel agency, and that's like really kind of the bare minimum at this point of personalization. So,
and so when you look at data, when we talk data hygiene, I mean, you're talking not even contact data hygiene, you're talking like system data hygiene, like you said, the templates and stuff, whether they're on brand or outdated and stuff like that. It's funny because I actually like, and you'll see this in a lot of my emails, I don't use first name personalization. And part of that's because it tends to be like a really, even if the data's accurate, it tends to like look dirty. Like you'll have like the all caps, or you'll have like all lower stuff like that. And HubSpot has a new data cleaning tool that actually makes it very during the morning show, Chris and I joke that sometimes like we end up sounding like infomercials in the middle.
I'm so
And I just
passionate about this. No, but for real.
I just feel like I just like broke out into infomercial mode. But there is a really cool, if you have Ops Hub, HubSpot will automatically like look if your first names are all caps or all lowercase, like whatever, and update that. And that's great. But I think you're even talking about I think you're totally right. If we don't have first name, last name, we probably don't have probably don't have much. We probably don't have much to go on.
Yeah, you don't. Especially with B2B as well, like people change jobs, right? So then their email goes stale. And if you're not, and that's the other thing I'll look at, especially if I'm in a B2B portal versus like a B2C, is like, how old are these contacts? And I'll be like, and I'll, if this portal has like, I don't know, let's say 75,000, like how many, like I like to do a breakout of like their create date by year. If we're in B2B and we have like a good chunk that are from like 2020, the chances are that they are still in that role are slim. Now, of course, you do have the long timers. I myself personally, I think the longest I've stayed at a role has been about 3 years. And I think that's about the average is 3 to 5, depending, on seniority and things like that. People change jobs. It happens. It's fine.
It's fine.
But I think, especially because I have been in-house, I got my start in marketing ops in-house. You can be there can be this sentimentality that you have to your database. Like you earned that, you got them to convert on that form. And so there can be a hesitancy to just like clean out your house. And it's okay. It's okay to just clean them out. You can export them and keep them in a drive if you really don't want to let go. But ultimately, going back to the trauma of email and email deliverability, it can hurt over time because those people are going to bounce, and it's going to tell those email service providers that you're not reputable. You keep sending this person who's not here. Like you keep knocking on the door, and like you're going to get ignored because they're no longer there. So I love to look at like the age of the overall database, especially it's really important in B2B because you're not going to have somebody from 2020. Most likely a lot of those people have moved on. And it's okay to get rid of them.
Yeah, you probably have the same personal email address that you had in 2020, but you probably don't have the same business email address. I don't.
I'm on my third one. No, fourth after we got acquired by Level Agency. So I'm on my fourth.
Sounds like a little bit of cheating, but
and I think though, for anybody out there sending to my web mechanics, I think they did send a forwarding one.
So you're fine.
You're fine.
That is a really good point. And especially we work a lot in B2B. So, and I know one of the clients I have that I bug Amanda about regularly has a really old database. And that is a consistent problem with email deliverability with that client. The unengaged box in HubSpot, that should help most brands, right?
It should, yes. And I really do encourage it. I do run into instances where actually I was just talking with another client, an education client, where while the unengaged box is great to check off, and HubSpot, even was like, this is really important because you don't want you to land in gray mail and hurt your deliverability. When we're talking about like my education client, for example, they are targeting younger people, right? Like the Gen Z and the older Gen Alphas, and they may not click on an email, but they may see it like on their phone.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that's where I think it depends. Again, like the unengaged, like some people think it may be too strict, and I'm very erring on the cautious side of like, just don't send to them. It's fine. They'll find their way back to you. They can interact with your brand in other ways. But I do think there are some scenarios, and like thinking about like your core audience, your target market, your ideal customer profile, right? Like my husband even like glances at emails. He may not click them. He knows too much a little bit about email marketing from my work, but that doesn't mean it doesn't have an impression, right? And so talking with my client, I was like, you're right. Like they may not click. So maybe we take that out of it and figure out some other parameters that we can identify that really does signal and engage, like their age and things like, or their contact record age, not like their literal age, that we can look. And it was a moment for me to also be like, you're right. Like I might scan an email. That means I opened it. But just because I didn't click it doesn't mean that I wasn't engaging with it in some way in this capacity.
Yeah, you saying that makes me want to look at some of my clients and look at their unengaged. So in HubSpot, unengaged contacts, if you don't know, is they have never opened an email and you have sent them at least 11 emails, or they have engaged, which I think is just an open even, with at least one email, but they have not engaged with the last 16. It's insane to me that I have that memorized, but whatever. This is just who I am. It's embarrassing. Having a really embarrassing moment right now. But that feels, I was just talking to a client about this last week. That feels like a lot. Like it feels like we tried our very best. But did any of those people visit the website not through our emails?
Yeah. And it's a fair question to ask.
Sorry, this.
No, it's a fair question. And I think, and this was actually just this, or was it last week, where I was just like, you're right. Like we do have the automatic setting. And I love that you remember the criteria, because confession, I have to look it up every single time. Like, well, what is this unengaged? Like, what does that constitute? I'm like, let me look it up really quickly, because it's a lot of, bullet points that that's not the thing I remember. I remember that transactional sense that it overrides the subscription status. That part I remember. But yeah, I think at first I was a little hesitant when like, well, can't we just make our own criteria? And I'm like, well, you don't really want to do that. But then, it really, again, it depends. Like we get back to that it depends answer.
Yeah.
And I think it's fair. And I think unless your deliverability has been totally shot, I think it's fair to play around with people who are engaged. If they visited your site, not through an email, if they filled out a form, they are still engaging. They know where to find you. And sometimes my husband does click on an email, that he finds worthy of value, and he may have ignored and automatically deleted without opening the last 5. And maybe that 6th one spoke to him, or the subject line was particularly good. Again, like it depends. And so I've been more open and receptive to be like, all right, well, let's think about what, not to be like get around not sending to unengaged people, but like, what does unengaged mean? And it really truly depend on your demographics and how you're using your email marketing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I tell my clients sometimes that like email is not always directly correlated.
Right.
There is like a brand awareness component of email. Like when I run display ads on Google, I don't expect those to convert. If I get a direct conversion from them, amazing. But like that's not why I'm ever running a display ad campaign. And I am actually I'm leaning there with email.
Yeah.
I haven't quite made that full switch yet, but I am definitely leaning into like, I'm not expecting people to sign up always from our emails. What I am hoping that they do, the same as with the display campaign, is they see our name, they recognize us. Maybe they even see the subject line and they're like, "Oh, there's a webinar coming up." And then they maybe they go to the website organically, and then if that's why it's really important to have an easy way for people to convert on your email promotion, like whatever you're promoting in your email through your website as well. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I will say too, fun story time. So when I mentioned about getting into marketing ops through email, I was at an in-house job. I worked at a nonprofit enterprise community partners.
Mhm.
And we were migrating off of Marketo to Salesforce Marketing Cloud. And that's kind of, they're like, we need someone to help with this. And I was new. So like, you tell me to do anything, I'm going to do it. And that is largely how we viewed our email channel was, and of course it's a nonprofit, and it was less about single donors and more about like those corporate donors and working with them and, working with HUD and things like that. And so it was less about the marketing, the conversion, and more about that brand awareness. So that was honestly my view of email. And I think it's really influenced how I view it, of why it's valuable, even if you're not seeing the conversions, like you said. And we actually would send out like we had 19 business units across the country. So we had a bunch of, regional newsletters that went out. And we actually did land a really big donation from Mackenzie Scott that we were able to track back to someone on the staff, subscribed to our email, saw on the website, got into contact, and went through there. So it was really cool to see how it tied back to our email and website, like for the digital marketing team, but was really a big lesson for me. And like, it played a part in our branding. They knew who we were. They knew that we were about affordable housing and things like that. So they had that top of mind when, Mackenzie Scott started giving out donations to different organizations.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah.
So I feel like I might have cornered you into a email deliverability conversation by accident.
Okay.
Is there any I mean, I'm happy to recap as like from an email deliverability standpoint, what are things in HubSpot to first look for, but are there any other places in HubSpot you like to look before I just corner you into this just being email deliverability?
No, you're good. That's where I got my start.
Amanda is more than email deliverability.
It is my first love, though, I will say. Let's see. I feel like integrations are a big one. Another kind of set it and forget it. Yeah.
I also think that gives you a hint as to like where HubSpot falls in,
Exactly.
like you were saying, like at the very beginning, where you want to look depends on how they're using it. So if it's integrated with Salesforce, maybe some of the sales tools are less critical in
Exactly.
HubSpot.
Yeah, like if I see it's integrated with Salesforce, I'm like, okay, that's probably where their sales team lives, right? And then I like to see too, like how that integration is being used. And some of them, like you can't really dig into how it's being used. The Salesforce integration one is, and if they have Salesforce integrated, I want to like make sure that that sync's working. I want to know how many warnings are being thrown. Like,
I was gonna say, what do you mean by working? What is your
I don't want to see a whole like half page of warnings like this needs to be added to the HubSpot property because it doesn't exist, like this pick list option. But also, yeah, that Salesforce integration can keep you up at night.
talking about trauma in
That's my other why isn't this working? Why aren't these syncing? I don't understand. Yeah, and then big key too for that is making sure that integration user is current and is with the existing client that is like it has their domain at the end. I did discover one recently that wasn't, they didn't change it over. And so things were breaking. So yeah, just to see what is being mapped, like are opportunities even making their way back into Salesforce, or can I just ignore deals and all that completely because it's just not in use? See what other tools are in their tech stack as well. Like if I see Zoom, okay, I'm like, okay, they must run webinars. Let's go look into workflows and see like how that's being integrated of putting people into webinars or Salesforce campaigns. That kind of thing. So integrations is a big piece of where I go to see how it's all working together. And if it is working together, maybe it's not.
Maybe it's not. Yeah.
Maybe it's not. Maybe there's a Teams and a Zoom. Like, do you still use both, or were you using one and we moved over to another? Do we need to keep that? Keep things clean and running? And
I always like to see if there's tools too that are like Calendly. Do you need Calendly, or can you use HubSpot meetings? Things like that. If there's like tool consolidation that we can do. And often people don't realize that HubSpot has a meeting scheduler that they can use instead of Calendly. But also sometimes people prefer Calendly for whatever reason.
Yeah, and that's fine. I've done Calendly workarounds. Sometimes it's a little frustrating with Calendly and HubSpot. But yeah, and HubSpot meetings has also evolved a lot too. Like you can round robin now, and I know that like there was a period where you couldn't, so people preferred Calendly for round robining, and now you can do that with HubSpot. And so often I feel like people are like, oh, HubSpot doesn't do that. No, they do now, and like that's to them. So again, let's be all infomercially, but HubSpot has evolved a lot, even since I started working in it.
Yeah, I mean, I all the time find things. I every morning look at all of the updates inside of HubSpot, and I still, just the other day, that formatting thing where they'll correct the first names to be properly formatted. I ran into that and I was like, amazing. And I was like, how did I stay pretty up to date, but
I know. Or that tip you shared, like the zip code thing. I think I didn't know it could do that, where you just put in the first 2 digits. I'm out here like, using AI to give me a list of zip codes within a certain area so that I don't have to go look at the map. So I could just, put them in a spreadsheet with my little semicolon and then copy and paste them into HubSpot, in a HubSpot filter. So yeah, it's moving so quickly, and that's what I always say to my clients, or if they bring something to me like, I heard HubSpot can do this, and I'm like, oh no, you caught me off guard because I didn't know. So thanks for sharing that. Let me go look at that and how we can use it for you and set that up. And so yeah, they're always changing. So much it can do now.
Yeah, stay curious. But also, if something's set up using a workaround, and I guess like the overarching message is, if something's set up with a workaround, don't be afraid to say, hey, we might not need that workaround anymore. Don't feel shy to be like, well, if they're using a workaround, there must be a reason. There might not be.
It used to be necessary. And I think too, doing quarterly cleaning of going through your workflows, going through things like your folders, your lists. I think that's why that kind of quarterly cleanup, whether you're in-house or agency, is really good. Just take a step back. Is this still needed? Is this just a workaround that now HubSpot does much more easily? And just, it's okay to clean out your house every so often, whether it's a contact or an old workflow.
All right, Amanda, any final thoughts?
I don't think so. I think that was it. Yeah.
All right. So look at your integrations, understand where HubSpot stands, check the data, cleanliness and age of the data, and kind of consider that with your audience and how that might intertwine, intersect, matter, words. I also really liked your tip about the emails. Are you using old templates and stuff like that? And generally, I think probably just looking at stuff that is set up to set and forget, and that might be a good place to get some early wins in HubSpot if any of that needs a refresh.
Yeah, it really is. Set it and forget it. Just remember it every so often.
If you set it and forget it, don't forget it.
Don't forget it.
All right, that's a wrap on today's HubSpot setup secrets. Huge thanks to Amanda for sharing your go-to first moves and behind the scenes thinking. If you're watching and thinking, I wish I had a guide to what actually to focus on inside of HubSpot day to day, that's exactly what I'm building with the 30 Days of HubSpot, a practical approachable course designed to help people feel more comfortable and confident in the tools without feeling overwhelmed. You can check it out and sign up on my website. I'll leave a comment below, and I'd love to have you join us. And if you have any tips of your own or want to be on a future stream, shoot me a DM. See you next time. Finds button.